Hi there, my name is Rob Murray and I'm a PM with the messaging security team here at Symantec. And I am going to be giving you a little guided tour of the Symantec phishing readiness platform today, as well as giving you some tips and tricks along the way for demoing this product to your end clients in the future. So with that said, let's take a look at the Symantec phishing readiness platform. Now, the phishing readiness platform is a web app-driven platform, meaning it's just a web page that an end client goes to. Now, once a client logs in, they're taken to a landing page for the phishing readiness platform. Now, this landing page serves one purpose, and that is to give big overview data about what that client's organization's platform has done. Now, what this big data tells an end client is basically just what their platform has done over the history of its lifetime. How many emails have been sent, how many assessments have been conducted, how many targets are currently in the platform, and how many groups those targets belong to, things like that. Now, the basic premise of the phishing readiness platform, for those of you that don't know, is it's a platform that allows a customer's organization to generate an assessment that sends out essentially fake phishing emails to test what the user population will do behaviorally in response to those emails. Will they click links? Will they download things? Will they expose information? The phishing readiness platform is designed to create those assessments, send out those emails, track those results, and report those results back to the client administrators. So with that said, the general flow of the phishing readiness platform, and by extension, the general flow of how I demo this to clients, is essentially the idea that you would create a group to then upload targets into, and then assign that group with those targets to an assessment you've created to then send out messages, gain responses from the user behavior, and then report that back to the client administrators. And like I said, that's how I sort of demo the entire product itself. So I would generally start with groups. I would take the client to the groups page to show them how groups are listed. Now, again, this is our demo platform. It has much more information in here than your standard sort of client platform will have, obviously because this is our own internal use. But as you can see here, groups themselves are listed by name, a description, and how many targets have been uploaded into them. So you would just create a new group, name it, give it a description, and then it would be available to use as a vector for putting in your target addresses. And then once that group is created, I would jump over to targets itself and then upload those targets. Now there's two ways for targets to be uploaded into the system. One is how you would generally get your first master list up into the system itself, and then the other method is to do fine-tuning, or at least that's how I recommend it. So bulk import allows the client administrator to download a CSV template, which then allows them to copy and paste all the client information into it, and then re-upload that target list back into this platform. Once you upload that list, it will then ask you what target group you want those targets to go into, and you just select from the drop-down the group that you just created. Once that CSV has been uploaded, that group is now populated with targets and is available to be used inside the creation of an assessment. So the real meat and potatoes of the phishing readiness platform is obviously the assessments themselves, and by extension, the creation of those assessments. So I generally will take the client to the assessments area next, and much like the format of targets and groups, when you go to the assessment area, it will list out all the assessments that are currently either in draft, have been completed, or are actively running in the platform itself. So for the purposes of demoing, you can create your own assessments to show clients from this area, or you can scroll to the very last page, and there are two demo assessments you can use, completely up to you, whatever you feel more comfortable showing off. Now from this assessment list, you can obviously click into any assessment that is listed here in this screen, as well as create new assessments by clicking the new assessment button down at the bottom. By clicking that, it allows you to choose from one of the three types of assessments. That is an open click test, an attachment test, as well as a data exposure test. Now generally during a demo, for simplicity, I just do open click, but it's completely up to you what you want to show the client based on their needs or their wants. From there, you're taken from an assessment setup page. Very straightforward. The first box at the top is for assessment setup. That's things like name, the target list that you want it associated with, that group that you created previously, and then start and end dates via time and date. So a little note about start and end dates. These are not start and end dates for the time in which the emails are sent. For all intents and purposes, the emails are sent immediately upon the starting of the assessment itself. The start and end dates are actually for when the platform stops looking for results. The default is 7 days, but the admins have the ability to set that to whatever they want. There's just a diminishing return past a certain point where you're not going to get results back, and too short of an assessment will leave results on the table. So it's just things to understand and maybe convey to your client. The next section here is messaging details. This is where you set up the details of the actual message. Okay, so things like subject line, sender name, sender email, and then the template, the message template that's going to be used for the assessment itself. This can be either a custom template or a template that we've pre-installed. And again, I'll show you that section after we cover this assessment area. Now, the next section is the phishing domain setup. The phishing domain setup is the domain by which any of the landing pages are built upon, or any of the underlying URLs for link hovering in the message. So obviously in the message, let's say it's an open click assessment, there's going to be a link in there, there's going to be a URL, and it might say one thing, but when you link hover, it will say what the phishing domain has been set up to be. So the next area is user training. Now this isn't mandatory. A user who clicks on a link in an email doesn't have to be trained, and this is where you actually set that up in the assessment. So the first step is an initial notice page or a user notice page. What that means is once a user clicks a link on an email, they can be taken to a page that notifies them that they've clicked on a nefarious link, but not to worry, it's just a phishing test. If you do not want to notify your end user, there's also the option for a silent redirect, in which case you can send them to Google or any other site that you then specify. Instead of notifying them, they clicked on something nefarious as a part of a phishing assessment. Now, should you choose to notify them that they've clicked a nefarious link as a part of a phishing assessment, you can then also choose to send them after that landing page to a training page which shows them a phishing readiness video. Now again, none of this is mandatory. It's purely if they select those options in the user training area. If they select silent redirect and send them to their own web page or somewhere to Google, they don't have to send them to a training page. So with all your options filled out, you would hit Save Draft. So that would save a draft of the assessment for you to look over and double check to make sure everything's correct. It would also notify you of any problems. It would obviously red flag anything that wasn't filled out correctly and it was not able to save the draft itself. Once an assessment is in draft mode, you can obviously save any new changes you've created, but also send yourself a test email before the assessment goes out. So the test email will get sent to whatever administrator is actually clicking on that button. So for myself, I'm logged in. If I hit send test email, it's going to send it to whatever email address I have in my profile for this account of mine. You can also delete the assessment from here as well as schedule. What schedule means is that everything's good and it will schedule to run the assessment at the date and time that you've set. If the date and time are set in the past, when you click schedule, it will schedule as well as run the assessment all in one go. Once an assessment has been scheduled, you'll see its status as scheduled. Then you will also find it in the assessment list, where it'll show its start and end dates as well as its status, which is scheduled. So now that we've scheduled an assessment, we'll also jump to assuming that it's now been run, and we'll get into some of the reporting features of the Phishing Readiness platform. You can check any of the reporting data for any assessment that is currently running or complete. Obviously, if something is draft or scheduled, they haven't been run yet, and therefore there's no data associated with those assessments. So now, using one of the demo assessments located at the end of the list here, I can show you what an assessment looks like when it's complete. Anytime you go into an assessment, it will show you that same setup page and all the data that was entered for that assessment, so you know the structure walking in. The only difference is in a running or completed assessment, instead of things like save or send test message, you'll just have a view results button. Clicking into that will let us go to a landing page for that assessment and the beginning of the data to show for that assessment. So much like the landing page of the platform itself, every assessment has a landing page per se. And that is, it's a page that gives big overarching data about what that assessment has done before you again drill into individual behavior statistics. So this landing page contains at the top big information about how many targets were sent a message, how many of those messages were opened, how many of those messages were clicked, and how many of those messages were exposed if, again, you're checking for those things. Just below that is general information about the assessment, being when the period was, what target group was used, what email template was used, if there was training, and then below that are some buttons to navigate further into these results. So below that top section are just some two nice-to-know pieces of information. One is a heat map that is generated based on the IP addresses of results coming in, and a behavior graph. This just tracks the type of behavior coming in, graphed against the dates of when those behaviors came in. Again, on the surface, they're just nice to know, but they can point out extra pieces of information to client administrators that coincide with some of the other data that they'll get when you drill down into the behaviors. So with that being said, to drill deeper into the results, you just click the Activity Details button here located at the top, and that'll actually take the user admin to a detailed list of every user in that target list that was sent a message and responded with some sort of behavior. So as you can see, all the columns are tracked depending on what kind of assessment you're doing, whether it's open, click, attachment, whether that's open, click, attachment, or exposed. It will track those negative behaviors. It will also track follow-up behaviors. It will track whether the user reported the message as a potential phishing message. This goes hand in hand with our Outlook submission button. There's also a manual way to set this up if they can't use our submission button. It will also track whether they've been trained. So if the assessment has been created to flow the user through the assessment to an end training video, it will track whether they've watched that. It will also track and report the device and client that the user used in order to record the behavior. So if they were checking their email on an iPhone and it took them through Safari or Firefox, et cetera, it will show that here. This is just the rough information that it presents through the platform. Should the admin want more detailed information or want this information in CSV format, they can click this button in the upper right-hand corner to download the raw CSV information about the results. They can also do that by going back and downloading, clicking the Download Reports button on the landing page for that assessment. Either way will get them the same information. In that CSV file, it will have even more detailed information such as times and dates of behaviors, as well as full version numbers for platforms, as well as a little bit of system information that just isn't presented on that sort of activity details screen, but is presented in more fleshed out format in the CSV. Now back on the landing page, the final button located here is the Compare button. Administrators can compare up to 4 assessments together to see a change over time. Now the next area I generally cover with the clients is the templates area. So it's sort of going back to the idea of creating an assessment. The backbone of every assessment is the template, the actual message that you're sending to a client. So we have a ton of pre-loaded templates for customers to use, things that are commonly found in the wild, things like credit card statement notices, airline ticket confirmations, password checkers, things like that. But the platform also allows an administrator to create their own, and that's really the power of that of the platform, is that they can create a template to use an assessment that fits their organizational needs to a T, rather than only being able to choose templates that we install. So if I take you to, taking the customer to the templates area, there's 2 types of templates. There's the email templates, and then there's the templates for landing pages. The difference there is every assessment will have an email template. A message has to be sent to a user. Not every assessment has a landing page, though. A landing page is an intermediary page that a user is taken to in the flow of an assessment if you're testing things like exposure of passwords. The landing page is the page, the website that a user is taken to once they click on a link in the email to be taken to a site where they maybe expose a password. As an extension of that, training pages can also be customized. We do have one training notice and one training page already pre-installed into the platform for the customer's use. But again, much like the assessment templates, should they have a better idea of what they need specifically, or if they have a solution they want to install specifically, they can customize those 2 pages, the training notice page and the training page itself, with their own content, or delete them altogether, or customize it in some way, etc., etc. And that can be done through these two headings themselves. Much like the assessment page or the targets page, the groups page, once you click on a templates page, it's taking you to a list that lists every template that's installed. At the beginning of the list, you will see templates that cannot be deleted. Those are the pre-installed templates. They cannot be deleted, but they can be cloned and customized for customer use, or they can be used directly in an assessment. So whether you're creating a new template or modifying an existing one, the customer admins are presented a visual GUI to do all that editing in. Now, should the admin have knowledge of HTML coding or has someone in their organization that will be doing HTML coding for this, you can do that through the source code as well, found in the options bar up here. Otherwise, everything can be done graphically through the interface here. Once a template is done, give it a name, etc., etc., it can be saved or cloned, and it can be used in assessments directly. The same goes for the training notice or the training page. It's the exact same format. It's just a visual editor that the user can either edit the HTML or graphically right in the interface itself. Now, the last two areas of the platform are the help section and the profile options on the right. So profile options on the right, obviously as a user, I can set my own profile options such as password or email address, things like that. Now, as an administrator of the platform, I also have the ability to manage the users of the platform. So this allows me as an administrator to create other admins or managers to help me run the platform. This is not for target users. This is not for people that you're going to assess. This is for people who are to create assessments and collect reporting data. Okay, people who are going to log into this platform. That can all be done from this manage users profile. Now the help button up here. So once clicked, the user admin is taken to the phishing readiness support page for Symantec, where they can create any cases or contact support or check out any of our KB articles for the platform itself. That pretty much takes care of the phishing readiness platform demo. At this point in time, I would give the client an opportunity to ask me any questions where I would elaborate or reiterate anything we've covered for yourselves. If anything pops up, do reach out to me. I can answer any questions or concerns. Other than that, thank you so much for your time, guys, and good luck selling the phishing readiness platform.